Hello, my name is Galen Cotton, and this is my op-ed analysis on the United States military and how it spends on its defense budget. This is actually based on my discussion 3, where I immediately opposed the use of military spending and overspending it. Now, this is from Michelle Flournoy and Eric Edelman, who wrote the Viewpoint essay, Restore Military Spending, via from the Washington Post. So right here, this is the link to the Viewpoint essay or where I got this PowerPoint from, as for the publication essay. As for the thesis statement, I've analyzed the essay and shown that the United States have been put in a hostile, high security environment since World War II, due to 9/11, due to the rise of ISIS, and due to the North Korean nuclear crisis, where North Korea was seen having nuclear weapons in their possession. As for the use of persuasion, the writer uses persuasion by positively describing examples of spending its budget on equipment that the United States uses, like bases, UAVs, and directed energy. As for the author's credentials, from the Viewpoint point of view, it seems that the author is an expert and knowledgeable on military spending and provides practical examples and recommendations for budget expenses. And the author does not have a single personal experience on the defense budget, as I looked everywhere and has not looked for it. Does not have any personal experience whatsoever. As for the organization of the essay, the writer organizes the essay using examples of real-life military conflicts, like I just mentioned, and begins to explain that the country has been on high alert since World War II. As for the tone description, the author uses a professional tone along with facts to convey the message in the essay. And as for the logical fallacy in the essay, is that military spending was problematic prior to World War II and the war in Afghanistan. So military spending was having problems even before World War II and before the war in Afghanistan. As for the information used in the essay was based on information from other experts. The Washington Post has stated that Australia even had plans to spend over $190 billion on its military for the next decade. So therefore, Australia is going to spend nearly $200 billion on its military for the next decade. And that's how, and the writer managed to base this information and compare it to them and compare it to their point of view. As for the specific examples that were used in the essay include military resources, spending money on UAVs, which I just said, undersea warfare, which are submarines, for example, and building more bases. And as for the second example, spending was caused by the Pentagon leadership tying up funds on the National Defense Panel. So as the Pentagon leadership was in disagreement, so many people in the Pentagon were disagreeing on what the military should be frequently spent. As for the third example, spending includes funds used for new key trade routes by the military. So therefore, this money can be used for new trade routes to new countries, to allied countries, I should say. As for the specific examples continue, per the article, this is where I put quotes in the article. Putting the defense budget on the chopping block and holding our nation's security hostage at a particularly dangerous moment in world affairs often feels like this is the type of spending that is putting the country in danger. So what this means is that if we never spent this much money on the military, this country would be in grave danger. We will be more prone to get invaded by other countries, or more prone to be less defended. As for the ethos, logos, and pathos, the writer uses a lot of examples of logos and using specific military examples of other military conflicts such as Russia-Ukraine conflict, the war on ISIS, the Korean nuclear crisis, and the airstrikes in Libya. As for the ethos, the author tends to persuade the readers that showing military spending is shown to have a goodwill towards the United States. So, as for the pictures, this shows that there's some missiles in North Korea. There's some Ukrainian troops training exercises and U.S. Marines in Afghanistan. And as for the structure of the argument, the author has used a two-element argumentative that breaks down to three different parts. The claim, 2, the grounds, 3, the warrant. The author uses the claim of military spending that can help protect the United States from possible conflict. The author uses the grounds as an example by describing that the military is economic, diplomatic, and intelligence element of national power. And as for the warrant, the author has used Air Force pilots needing to train in air combat and Navy ships to be show a force against other enemy countries. And as the structure of argument continues, in my opinion, the author has provided strong source of argument to support the thesis of the budget of military spending. As for the Aristotelian argument, I firmly believe that the writer is also using his Aristotelian argument to convince the readers that writer states facts to persuade the readers that military spending is more important for the country's safety and security for its citizens. And as for my works cited, this is where I got my images from, and I hope you enjoyed my argumentative thesis theory. Thank you very much.